Rooster FM 91.3, the number one radio station for variety.
Alright, wonderful. Good morning once again. You are still tuned into Rooster 91.3 FM. So right about now we are getting into a program which is titled Insakayabume, which is brought to you by the Population Media Center, and we are broadcasting live from Kansenshi Premium Plaza in Ndola on the Kobabe province at 91.3 FM, and we are also broadcasting live on our on our sister channel rather, that is a radio Chimwemwe on 91.7 FM. I will be your host for today. My name is Mukuka Jackson Nawa. So today's topic is sexual gender-based violence, and in the studios I have Mr. Roger Spiri, who is a community activist in GBV, and we are rather expecting to be joined by our second guest, who is Mr. Cornelius Mwanza. Apparently he is running late, but he will definitely find us in due course. But before we get into what we have to discuss today, we have something that we want you to listen to.
My name is Mary. I would love to find out, when it comes to the issue of gender-based violence, is it possible that two people of the same gender can violate themselves and it is deemed as gender-based violence?
Fofweleni vanhu panofofo idingini fofwela involved sana kuti mwamona kuti umuntu tavaimusunga bwino. For example, mwaite wandindopera for example pamwaite wandishi umuntu nyale mushupa sana chiyakwevati nga mwaikala panshi mwalandokevati awe fifi pavane fipwe valanda yororesheni pavana yo vavangata vakakule bwino avanga valekana mamani chitapera chomureso ubva pati nishumeipa pari vara vaviri pafuire pafu omuntu so iringife vari pamufofo valenga niini problemu kuchitauka kupolisi nakonga moya atiwekwekaveni pashi mama inacho ndaipshako kuri imwe mwavuteko mwalato wafashani vantu mwavuteko panambo vanu nimwe muina kumtashuka vatikekaveni pashi avanata vakakure bwino namba mwalato wafashani muri situation ya musango efi mana mayo varetura sana mmandomu GBV mkwaifurefe yapwa mwavuteko mulerekeshepo pari ichi chintu avantu vapwa kufa mmandu mvapwa kuibana mlambo wakavati mwavuteko namavanika mulevika kwa mano amulavika kwa mano kwevo kwevati awe avantu valeipana tuvike pwefunderi kosere vifi ntungatafire chitika so mwavuteko nomba mwalati wafashani pari situation thank you mkwainapera.
My main worry about GBV kuti fine umwana valemuchusha mwamona na family ati umwana valemuchusha valemuma tavamusunga bwino tavamuchita shani, especially fine fyakumanga mwavula umulume wakwe mwamutwala na kukoti bakoti ndabalanda ati bakoti taking action umugasha ati awe ine balume bandi yonga mwabakaka abana balachula yonga mwabakaka ine ishibomba abakulansunga nomba nishi twalaikala shani eri pushori yandiri mwe government muletira pushani GBV takafo pantu bana mayo bamobene ukubale bambi balerira ati bale bachusha mufyuko bambi nabo mutwali abalume kufyuku makota tiyo abalume balume bandi nomba twalaikala shani eri pushori yandi ishina yandi nebo juna kawe mtuapya nebo na Loveland icho ndefoyo kupusha pamoja uteko ndefo kupusha kwa ati bushe SGBV
mule yafashanya abantu abali okumana abali yocha abali ekitashani mwana abafashani bantu tulemona bambi abantu balasamulesanga okuba tibafwa Mulume aocho au namikashi afwa mulukashi aocho mulume afwa nishanshi iyo mwebuteko mwala twafira mabantu na twatitulolekeshe kuleba nokusha kutuba notunyono kuleba nokulu kulinja abana bashala baletula tubabenga mu street because abafyashi n'abafata mulandu wa SGBV mwala bafashani nga mwebuteko emikwayi Eddie Pusho Yandi, actually Pusha Chismangwani. Good afternoon. This is Katie Kanyika Chola. Yes, I want to find out why is it that men fail to report GBV whenever they are being mistreated by their wives. Can you explain more? I'm sure your organization can explain more about it.
Listen to your favorite radio show, Isaka Yavumi, for great information on various health issues like HIV and AIDS, sexual and gender-based violence, maternal and child health, and family planning. Dola, listen on Chimwene Radio and Rooster FM at 1000 hours every Wednesday starting 17th of January 2024. In Kitwe, listen on Yar FM and Flavor FM every Thursday at 10 hours starting 18th January 2024. Gongwe, listen on Pongo FM at 10:30 hours every Wednesday starting on 17th of January 2024. Mufulira, listen on Muscat FM at 1500 hours every Saturday starting 13th of January 2024. Chingola, listen on Iowa Radio and Kokoliko FM at 900 hours every Thursday starting 18th January 2024. Isaka Yavu, helping us improve our lives for better health.
This message is brought to you by Population Media Center in partnership with Ministry of Health.
Indeed, the Population Media Center in partnership with the Ministry of Health are the sponsors of this particular show. It is titled, or it is rather called, Insaka Yavumi. So we are live on both our radio, Chimwemwe 91.7 FM and Rooster FM at 91.3 FM. So today's topic is sexual gender-based violence, and in the studios today I have Mr. Roger Spiri, who is a community activist with regards to gender-based violence. Mr. Piri, good morning and welcome.
Thank you so much. Good morning, listeners, and happy Valentine's to all the listeners.
Thank you. Mr. Cornelius Mwanza, who is the principal clinical officer from Ndola District Health Office, is in the studio as well. Mr. Mwanza, good morning and welcome.
Thank you. Good morning, moderator, and good morning, listeners.
All right. So today's topic is sexual gender-based violence. Of course, when you go to the community out there, when you just say GBV or gender-based violence, most likely a lot of people have heard of gender-based violence. But when it comes to SGBV, which is sexual gender-based violence, it sounds a little bit new. It sounds a little bit confusing to certain people, and they might confuse the two. And like you've heard in the Vox Pops, we heard some people referring to the actual GBV, which we are all privy to. So, could you just explain to us what sexual gender-based violence is? I'll start with Mr. Piri.
Thank you so much, Mr. Moderator. I'll be trying to mix English with our local language so that
even better.
Even Bambuya, whatever Nachimbusa, Funda, so that they get our points very clearly. So, what you have said is correct. In the past, we have just been mostly talking about GBV. To understand about GBV, but lero nabalunda kwa esa kwa sexual, yabana sexual gender-based violence. So I will try to explain, then briefly to explain further so that nabambuya kukombo ni bonfo buno bwenu. When we talk of SGBV nango sexual gender-based violence, we are simply talking about violence nango in Bemba they say zitulukakala, something like that. Violence which is committed against a person, any person, because of their sex or gender. So in short, tulandokoba ati ululukakala uluba initiated by someone, mulanduwakoba ati alelolesha pali sex ya uli omuntu owalekita commit against owalekita violence oko ili targeted to because of because of sex nangu gender. So abantu mostly balakita confused before I go any further pali sex na gender. Sex nga tuwashita define in simple terms tulando kwa it's just a matter of the state of being umwaume na ngulu mwana kashi. Then if you look at gender na yena ilela ndafe pamwaume no mwana kashi in connection with na socially constructed roles, like if you apply cultural differences rather than biological differences. When you talk of gender, tulabika mwefingi sana if you find that bushomwaume being a man, what are your roles? Busheso society let's expect you to watch tashan. What are your behaviors as a man, as a boy, or as a girl? Bushofil watch they finish. But the sex yena tulanda fepadi either you could be a man or a woman. So nga tualanda padi sexual GBV tulela ndokweba ati ululukakala uloluba committed by one person against another basing pali sex ya uli omuntu nangu gender. So if you think mostly if fichitika either by way of forcing, coercion, nangu limbi kumuchita threaten omuntu, nangu manipulation, nangu pe deception, nangu maybe using your power because you want to power, you want to abuse that person, you want to manipulate that person. Ulechita coerce so that you gain what you want because you think that person because of his gender, because of her sex, uli omuntu ali vulnerable. So basically that's that. So in other words we can say it's just forcing a person to do something against their will.
All right. So over to you, Mr. Mwanza. What are some of the forms of SGBV that are there?
Okay, thank you very much, Mr. Director. There are quite a number of forms of sexual gender-based violence. The first one I'll talk about, the first form is physical violence. Physical violence, I'm talking about where you are able to inflict pain on another person. Nga firefa tulela ndoko atukulwa mayanda abalume bawuma abakashi n'abakashi bene baloma abalume. So that's one form of violence, physical violence. There is also another form of violence which is sexual violence. This is the violence performed on an individual without consent. So what we are talking about is that sexual violence nifirefya kutila wawe mwaume ulefwaya fye wayimina ukufaya okubomba omulimo kumwana kashi okwabula ensambu. And mostly if you feel chitika pamulandu wa ifintu fimo sana sana if you look at the cultural norms balando kwati umwana kashi afule anakila umaume. So even when this woman is not feeling too well, even when this woman has a certain condition, but just because of the cultural norms, uyu umwana kashena umwaume kufa afyati aboma, which is doing something against the will of that person. At times it can be owakalamba ukwimina umwana umukashana umunono, where this child has not consented, but because of certain cultural norms, as long as you are of age, you are able to handle any man. So even when this child is not ready to handle sex-related activities, but because of certain things, mwasango kwa tibamba ukumubomfya bambala katafina pamaka ukuimino omuntu kwamba ukumubomfya ukwabula ukusenda nensambo. And what we should know is that any act that you want to perform on another person, there should be consent from that person. That person should not be coerced. That person should not be threatened. That person should not be enticed in any way. It is something that should be done just because the other person has freely submitted and is willing to be involved in an act. That is another form of violence, sexual violence. There is another one, psychological violence. This is where now many people are experiencing this violence, where you use abusive language, where you just insult. Nangu umuntu cannot say anything, but you are the man. There is power upon you as a man. You can say what you want to say. Yeah, and that is quite very serious, and it inflicts a lot of pain upon that woman. Echo mukasangila bambi kuti afwa nokulondolola leli lafye. Finshi atawe teti ndondolo fanjebele lafye nkalipa. So that is also psychological. There is also economical violence. Economic violence, this is the man who is the provider, or man is the head of the house, is the provider. And because he's the provider, is able to dictate everything, will be able to make the woman behave in a certain way so that this man is able to provide. Na pamulango upina mwasangati atampa okula chusha uli omuntu. But doesn't mean that wema umena ngoko etolu pia daufile watampa okuchusha. So those are some of the forms of violence that we can talk about, and also there is also emotional violence. Yeah, there are quite a number of forms.
So since you've alluded to the types of SGBV, obviously those don't just come about; they have causes. So I'll throw this question to Mr. Piri. Okay. What are some of the major causes of sexual gender-based violence?
All right, thank you so much. So before I lose my thought, moderator, I just wanted to add on to what Mwanza said. Remember in your opening remarks you mentioned something like sexual gender-based violence abantu abengitabayishi babati yaisa this time. So when you include this SCR sexual, we are talking of cases like rape, defilement, and of course sodomy. Someone talked about it, Pama callers, is it possible for a man to abuse his fellow man? There are cases that sodomy, and most of them are not reported. So coming back to your question, there are so many causes people are subjected to all these types of behaviors or violences that Mwanza has alluded to. One of them could be conflict and war. You can agree with me that in most countries abashakwata peace iringi kwaliwama cases ya sexual abuse, especially amongst the women n'abakashana abana abanono. And this sexual GBV usually affects banamayo n'abakashana. So a country or a place that has no peace, we conflict, we will say a lot of cases ya sexual GBV because banamayo n'abana nono abakashana in this time of war are so vulnerable. So then the other one is harmful gender norms. You remember I talked about the differences that society has put between among women abakashana bashitata na bashifwe. So nafia nashumufu mwifefo tuwasanga society yali chita construct kale fila chita contribute kuli sexual GBV. Situation na chirumula bana chimbusa where a woman is taught pakia kuchupoko but whatever happens within the house fya munganda tafili fya fyafuma fya kunse. Such practices you find that nangu namayo baramuma baramuforcing to have sex since banachimbusa bali mwebero kwe bati don't do this ala fisunga fya munganda. So the vice will continue until maybe muntu limbichafika ku very Sunday dini yako ati nimbi muntu arusa no mweo. Then the other thing of course is cultural practices, but of course in Democrat these days we are running away from like sexual cleansing, where a person dies mwachita force na mayo against her will kwatio mwalala na bapiri just because bapiri bali mukumbu kanakali. Such practices are very detrimental ku buntunse. So then the other thing of course is maybe poverty, like or in other words like lack of empowerment. Iringi banamayo abengi tababa empowered in our society. Most mwasangati ama breadwinners ni bashitata namayo yekala fye panganda. They are empowered so that Bamwanza use something like that you have power over a certain group of people. A man like Mr. Piri has got power over a woman, so if you also for a fire. So in short, I can say power imbalances also contributes to sexual GBV. A woman who is not empowered is so vulnerable at the mess of any voucher that is roaming the community. Then, of course, anger in the poverty, I've talked about it. Then, of course, some other thing that can contribute to the rise in sexual GBV is, of course, breakdown of services. I talked about a conflict na nenkondo mufyalo fimbi inkondo yala ingo koba tama services aingi mchalo yaba broken down. Ama hospitals takudi, ama one stop centers where a person can run to takudi, police ama police stations takudi. Ama health services, people cannot access some health services because there's a breakdown of services in that particular community. And then the other thing, of course, is the breakdown in relationships, marriages. Abantu balekana abana bafechiye batenda up street. These children are exposed to so many vices, so that at the end of the day balapta through sexual GBV. You find that a street kid you may think that akakashana kalaba kapere from mama fellow street kids, but it's someone who is coming from the community just like Bapir, because Bapir na wakwata tu kwacha ya kapere, you take advantage of that game. Yeah, so these are some of the things that usually will contribute to the rise in sexual GBV cases.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. So before we open the phone lines, I think we can. You want to go to?
Oh yes.
Yeah, before we open up the phone lines.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Perry. I think he has mentioned quite a number of things that concern SGBV. So some of the things that I really wanted to add on are the things that we've seen, the cultural norms. If you look at the culture, our traditional culture, it empowers a man a lot. It's like it is the man that carries the power over a woman, and because of this, it causes a lot of problems to the other party, because I am empowered, I'm the head of the house, I can do whatever I do. So this power imbalance where the man is like the carrier of the power in the home, this causes a lot of problems in homes. Even when this person wants to do anything, will be able to do, because I'm the head of the house. I'm empowered. The woman has nothing to say. And nowadays, there is also something that we have seen that is really causing a lot of sexual gender-based violence. Insecurity also on the part of the man. This is the man that is married, that has married this woman, and the wife is empowered to do maybe some business. This wife is empowered with education, and after education, the woman is employed. And when this woman goes for work, maybe knocks off late, the man will begin to suspect the wife of having extramarital affairs, even when this woman barely knocked off late, never passed anywhere, just went for work and came back a little bit late. It becomes an issue to the man who is there at home because of insecurity. Pantu nomba na mwamba okubomba mwatampa okwisala eti panganda na mwamba okubomba nomba kuti mwachita efyo mulefwaya nomba nde milanga okwati n'omuntu wanganda nyine. We have seen such acts popping up in the community, and it is one of the major causes of sexual-based violence amongst married couples. So even when this one goes for business, the man will be looking at the watch. She's supposed to be home by 16 hours. What is happening? She comes home at 17 hours. Instead of inquiring what are they paying, will be busy now holding insults on this innocent woman who is trying to support the efforts of the head of the house, the man.
All right.
Yes.
All right. So the phone lines are open. The phone lines are 0965-913-913 and 077-770-913. You can catch us using those particular lines, 0965-913-913 and 077-770-913. This is Isakayawumi, a radio program brought to you by the Population Media Center in conjunction with the Ministry of Health. We are not only broadcasting on 91.3 FM, but we are also live on Radio Chimwemwe, that is a 91.7 FM. And the topic of discussion is sexual gender-based violence. And in the studios, I have Mr. Cornelius Wanza, who is the Principal Clinical Officer from the Ndola District Health Office, as well as Mr. Roger Spiri, who is a community activist against gender-based violence. So 0965-913-913 and 077-770-913. You can come through using SMS or direct phone call, and we shall definitely have that question or point of clarity made. So, of course, during the initial remarks, I'm pretty sure we tackled these two questions, but I think we can answer them in one. Who is prone to sexual gender-based violence, and can men be victims? If yes, how?
Yeah, who is prone to SGBV?
Yeah.
I believe everyone is prone to SGBV, but the most who are at risk are women and young girls, because of what we already have alluded to. Mr. Mwanza has just been talking about the lack of empowerment amongst the women folk. So icho kiralengo kweba ati women are more vulnerable n'abana bakashana than us men. But then of course, if we look at men, there are certain men that also have undergone through this sexual gender-based violence. It's just that they are quiet. So to answer that one in one, women are more at risk. Yeah, women and young girls are more at risk of passing through sexual GBV.
All right, so we can pick up this particular caller.
Okay.
Hello. 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 Good morning. Yes. Who am I speaking with, and where are you calling from? Hello. Hello.
Hello?
Yes. Who are we speaking with, and where are you calling from?
Yeah, this is Rashid calling from Mushidi, Hillside.
Rashid says you're calling from Mushidi Hillside. Kindly speak up.
Yes, sir. But the point is, Walanda, if we fue ubangweli akatiwa ubangweli wanjiramu ekire wekishafana banamayo kana bakitayipawa yo point batandati namayo nga alebomba for instance me I'm a bricklayer, okay, then my wife maybe has done his duty even more than me. Maybe she's an accountant. Yeah, need to open okay. Anyway, was in the womb, or you are talking about a baby, or was against you. So, like the drum of a tender machine over a machine, then minister. Well, I didn't know account job. But I didn't get you. I said, this is what the small company is bringing money. So, I saw what time. So, if you were a woman, a dash billy, she's no one that has started against you. Because you want to put a man. So, our way, like what the son, Kadia, which I want to come to us, and I don't so you didn't get in you and a mile or working as a society.
Alright, thank you so much. Alright, so you can also come to using the number 0965913913 as well as 0777709113. So before we pick up that particular caller, you were on the floor.
Yes, I was saying what about at least more. Nibana mayo na bana bakashana baba more prone to sexual GBV because of what Mwanza talked about. Then of course you also asked about men also prone to sexual GBV. I was saying yes, it's just that if bashikireshe balando ko ati foba muni fo bangwere bashitata na bana barapita through forms of violence, but to come out so that they report these cases, especially when it comes to the forms that Mwanza bachilalandapo, spousal battering. But just because I'm a man, ndefiro okufuma kunsoko wati nebalanguma kwali bana banamayo baforcing abena mwabako wati mpaka fe bapange ekyupo nolo omuna abona anaka kutino ko batimingana na bananji batina mwishiboko mwafuma but these cases turanyantirira turafisa fwe baome because we are fearing ko bati abala mbwena mwati umwaome wala ndefya musango but most abantu bali ba prone to sexual GBV. Yeah,
and I think what you said is in tandem with this particular message that has just come through, and it reads good morning dear presenter and the panelists, nice program. Even though this sounds funny, there are situations where as a man now you don't want to have sex, but namayo adefwaya if you refuse to suspect you of having another affair. So my question to you, the panelist, is that today sumina nangu this is from Kinkayo in Mitengo. Can you clarify on that to avoid being suspected?
It's tricky, especially on the part of a man. You know, the woman, it is easier because the woman is at the receiving end, and the man has to be ready psychologically for this man to be able to perform. And again, then you find that you begin to fail to perform because your mind and the body, they are not in agreement, they are not connecting. You see what I mean? So that the man will not be able to perform. And again, the same woman will be able to say, because you have an extramarital affair somewhere. Maybe if maybe there was even an issue of suspicion,
so people pick up this call and you will continue from my event. Okay. All right, hello? Mr. Kaumbe, all right, go ahead.
I think I'm amafungiro babafunda mu mayanja tubasanga uko tubafunga abantu balikana mu mayanja numba mwangu fenda mfunga kama leti bali mkono kumfama alaita wana na mwanore chini ya keso ndani kwenda in one sided
How so?
my ta kwa mtu kwa iko right pero ni mwa one sided mfunga leta au kifucha hayo ina ndani ya fungwa kama fia wako watu au abatorana ama mbaleza ndio wapira abatorana eba bafungwa kifuko bafuma kuchinchina ku nishantamira bafunda takuwafuya kuzingira kumumanja takwava po tibimye ndaba kwase witapa takwa tibimye tukopa kubai kubai kutana tibimye tamava kubai tamava mwana abantu bafungwa iyo bafungwa cyane bafungwa kwa tamuko mwita play
All right, thank you so much. Okay, opinions. But you can perhaps finish your comment when you respond to the caller.
Yeah, yes, this is what we are saying. If the mind and the body, they are not in agreement, the man may not be able to perform, and this will raise further confusion in the home, thinking the man got relieved from somewhere, and now has come into the house, is failing to perform. No, yeah, and the next time you demand maybe for sex, the woman will refuse to be able to say, and yet this is just a man who came back home tired and was unable to perform. Yeah, and this is what I can say. Yes, and then maybe just to add more, maybe to help the caller understand, we are not talking about marriages, so to say. We are talking about sexual, gender-based violence. And when we talk about sex, we are talking about the state of being a man or a woman. And then gender roles, Mr. Piri earlier mentioned that these are roles and responsibilities that are there for the woman and also the man. Yeah. So now, when you look at issues of GBV, we are seeing almost or hearing almost every day that just this morning when I was coming here, the colleague was talking about a certain couple that picked up a quarrel, and the man ended up killing the wife. And on the radio we hear about these things. Now when we hear about such negative acts happening amongst couples, is it not right or wise for us to talk about that and trying to provide solutions to the problems that they have in homes? And like the other caller said, those are happening amongst married couples, and most of the people that are married, they've undergone traditional marriage counseling, and some they've gone to in churches, but we see these things still popping up in homes happening. So now what we are trying to do is to try and provide more information to the community, to the society, that this is what it is and this is what is happening on the ground.
Right.
Maybe Mr. Piri can add something there.
Yes, exactly, Mr. Mwanza. So when we talk about sexual GBV, we are not just talking about sexual GBV happening in marriages. Sexual GBV chiachitika ukulikonse. It could be muri marriage, it could be muna relationship ya kofati boyfriend girlfriend, it could be at places of work, it could be at church, it could be in street, anywhere. So when we talk about sexual GBV, that muri marriage. Yes, of course we are saying barapita muri counseling, traditional counseling, that is. But again, just like Mwanza has said, we are seeing a lot of intimate partner violence happening within a marriage setup. So we can't just sit down and say, marriage counseling, so let them be. It is wrong. Just yesterday, I've got a case that I'm handling in Mkombo Mkuruvuto, where this woman, she's an epileptic. The husband is reported to be working somewhere, but lives the wife with no food. They have got 5 children in total. So abana mayo abashibali ba epileptic, and you know when you are taking those medication you need to eat food. But yesterday when we visited this couple, the husband was not around. It was she was going through a seizures almost the 1 hour that we spent with her. Why? Because the husband left home without giving them any food. You see. So if you go back to what Bamwanza was saying, Bachita mentioned a lot of forms of violence that occur more communities. Yes. And one of them is that of physical, economic violence, denying your family access to their basic needs. So if you have to learn that, so that Walanda Pali sexual GBV, the last caller, that Walanda Pali marriages, we're also talking about these acts taking place in other places like churches, places of work, anywhere in the community. These things can happen.
So when these things do happen, where can they be reported? SGBV, where should people report cases of SGBV?
There are various places where these cases can be reported. Under MOH, under Ministry of Health, we have one-stop centers where they can go, and especially when there is a physical violence, where maybe the woman is battered and maybe the man has inflicted injuries on the woman, can go to the clinic to seek medical attention, and there at the clinic we have got counselors, we have got police officers, and people that can help sort out that problem. So kuma clinic eko kwa bangabaya mundolana tukwata pamupanyu masala clinic is a one-stop center ngabafika n'abagwato bafya kutiba batangata. Chakubalira pollution defo konkomesha is that usually what they used to do was when it was a case of violence, they used to send them first to the police, go and collect the medical report, then you come back, and then after that, that's when you attended to. But this time it's different. When they report to the clinic, if there is a case of violence, first we have to attend to the patient, sort out the problem, and then refer to the next level where they can deal with the issues of medicals and also human rights. Yes, so they can come through our clinics, we are able to handle. And also those that can just go straight to the police, there is a unit called Victim Support Unit. They can go there and they can receive help. Yes. At times, even some can even go to the church, but there mostly it is counseling that is provided. At times, it may not get to the core issue or may not address the feelings of a woman who may want justice over what has happened. Yeah, so that's what I can say.
So during I'm sure Mr. Mwanza, you had not yet come. We played some word from the street, and there was one pertinent issue that came up: issues of withdrawing cases. Either court maybe cannot appear evidence or police in case court maybe the person is a breadwinner, maybe relative. So now it brings me to this particular question. If a person is a relative, right, and they perpetrate SGBV, and they say, as per our culture sometimes, as a family, can one withdraw an SGBV case?
That's quite interesting. Issues to quite most in my communities. You will find a case here, sexual GBV, quite alright, reported to police, but later on, focused withdraw. But it's not supposed to be the case. Because if what we are looking at the interest of the survivor, perpetrator, the criminal. So if you are quite much to withdraw case, because in the Mwasha, you'll be charged. You'll be quite charged with the perpetrators and accomplice to that crime. So ndelomba kuma fellow community members bananjuko, but please, whenever there is a case of sexual GBV, tekwesha ukuchita withdraw, and ichilenga okuchita withdraw ni ifi nitwachalana pokwati lack of empowerment, poverty. Abantu baba chita offer twala mpela 10 pin daba munapo 10 pin for imoneka, they will readily do cover twala chita withdraw. But please look at the permanent damage that has been done with a survivor. Put yourself in the shoes of that survivor. So if you are withdraw fiena takwa abanda, I don't think if you no mwakumana feda the right people, you like if mwanza bachiranda, you report to the right people, you report to the right place, case ikaba completed successfully, takwa kama issues yako but you start to want to withdraw. No, case ngana ya police, let the police handle the way the case professionally, the way they're supposed to handle it. Ngakutwala ku court, let them take it ku court. Ngachakwa if the perpetrator is innocent, he will be proved innocent at ku court. Not femumushimura mwiro ko bati 10 bits they withdraw. No, but let's take the interest of the survivor at heart. Because the damage that has been done is permanent, especially when it comes to a child of 8 years, a child of 15 years. Surely a normal thinking person to afford much withdraw just because the perpetrator is a breadwinner. Because withdraw, that perpetrator will still continue committing the same crimes. Because so in simple terms, we are saying there should be nothing like withdraw any case that is related to sexual GBV, please. Yeah.
You are right, Mr. Pidi. And this is the problem that we have in the community. Someone will come through and you see that there is a big problem here. But along the way, the case is dropped, where maybe the family would want to intervene and talk about reconciliation. At times they don't even talk about reconciliation. They begin to issue threats. Kuri ulioma maybe kuri namayo to say if a bruru wesunga bamukaka ukachimona. Tawakeka bamutenda na owine tukamekinga sure tufimufyachitika. Now this woman who is so vulnerable looks at the threats issued against her. What does she do tomorrow is to bring out, is to drop the case. And this is why we are saying, if there are threats, and also that is also another form of violence, if there are those threats, report them. Report whoever is issuing intimidatory statements to you. Abapolisi n'abakwata insambu you have to round up bali abantu because they are also siding with the perpetrator. So we are saying our cases therefore are withdrawn. Yes, let the process be complete so that justice prevails. We have seen, I'm telling you, it's so heartbreaking. And this is a woman who is hurting. Yeah, and I'm reminded of a certain story that happened, I think, some years back. After this child lost quickly. Okay. After this child lost the parents, the uncle decided to start taking care of his young girl. What does the uncle do in the process? Impregnates her. And then tells her to shut up, not to mention to anyone. It's like the family sat over it and they closed the chapter. But this is the girl who was so hurting, at some point decided to come and seek help. To say, I want justice to prevail. But kisa mpele fumo bankwa balingiro kunsunga nokungafa. But eba isa mpele fumo ero palasti no kuisa dumping after case ya isalika our family. So I want this case to go to court. You know such things. Yeah, you may think you are solving a problem today, but you are creating another problem tomorrow. Yeah, so this is what we are saying. So if the process is complete, it's done once and for all.
Speaking of the process, or speaking of processes, just what is the process of handling SGBV when it is reported?
I think the process has been touched a bit by Mwanza, but when you come across a case of sexual GBV, the best thing without hesitation is to report that case to either police or local leaders or the local authority. And I think we as Ndola, we have one-stop centers that Mwanza mentioned. We have one at Masala, new Masala Clinic, just across the Kafumu River. Then we of course have one at Ndola Teaching Hospital. And then we have one at, is it ADH?
Yes.
Yes. And then, luckily enough, again, I've seen the Zanda Police Service opening up a lot of victim support units across the communities. I've seen one in Lubuto. There was nothing of that sort in the past. So the process is simple. You just report that case to relevant authorities who will take it up from there and then proceed. You'll be what happens more one-stop center is that mulamwire walasanga wa police, walasanga professional counselors, walasanga medical personnel, meaning that iwe tawakwate buli obwafi bwakwati, you move from this place to that place fyonse barakutangata fe within that one place. So the process is, if you have to suffer any other crime, you report to relevant authorities. In this case, you can report to the police, to the relative that you trust, to a local leader, to a church leader, which they trust. And then of course we also have community activists in almost all the communities in Ndola. You can report to them. They will help you to take up that case, take it to the police. From the police, hospital, the doctors will sign whatever medical forms you have, and then it will be taken to court. Yes.
0965913913, 0277770913. Those are the two numbers that you are catching us on, and we are live on both on Rooster FM 91.3 as well as Radio Chimamwe 91.7. This is Isaka Yaumi program brought to you by the Population Media Center in conjunction with the Ministry of Health. So we've talked about reporting, but assume there is a case that hasn't been reported and the police is aware, or they see or they notice a case or a possible case of SGBV, but it hasn't been reported. There's no complainant. Can the police take action themselves?
I think yes, that's the work of the police, because there are certain issues that happen, but the community looks the report be for various reasons based on to themselves.
Okay, we can pick up this caller, then we shall get back to you. Hello?
Hello, good morning.
Yes, morning, how are you?
The voice of Mr. Chihuahua Ndola.
Go ahead.
Good morning, Mr. Sehuwa.
Thank you. This is a very good topic, which needs most of the community to be aware of. But I've got some questions that I would like you to help me, especially in terms of sensitization. Yes, you are on the radio speaking, but then you are hearing you take time to ask the time in cases to go through and give this information so that people can be aware, because this information needs to go around so that people understand. You know, there are a lot of young children who are being abused in the community. How much more do you do to take this information so that it reaches even to the young child, especially young girls, so that it reaches now much and they become abused. Abashyashya bari mu karande yoni chiwafu no kufana mukafunga kupanga naye na ikairofie. Then the second question is about the issue in the community. You know, me myself, I'm very much disappointed, especially in the community. Okay, you may go to any of the white area. You know, I is again to it, but in particular, also in total, I'm one of one. I know one. Now, people just question all one. That it means that the box school, now I'm paying my bank, I don't have a question. So now, why can't the community come out and react to say, you want to hear about paying for more? And you want to just everybody figure up more sensitization. How much do you do more in the community to sensitize this issue of reporting? And the last one is about how much especially when we talk about gender-based violence, it is a very big challenge when you talk about the report when you are being abused by a lady. Some of the officers, I'm not saying all of the officers, but some of them, the reception officials or whatever, you know, kumenyeshwa kumukazishwa akashongala kuti why can't you react to when you feel imbalanced, someone feel imbalanced. So what education to this officers who imbalance, so whenever you go to report such cases, together.
All right, thank you so much, Mr. Sibubo. I think you can respond and we can go to the last two questions. No. Yeah. Just quite some number of questions there.
I've not picked up one where he says how much are we doing in the communities?
Yeah, in terms of sensitization.
In terms of sensitization. Yeah, so as a community activists, we are trying to streamline issues of sexual GBVs, meaning that in whatever activities that we are doing in the community, we talk about GBV. Yeah, we also do what we call community dialogues, specifically to talk about issues of sexual GBV. These are just community meetings, in short, where we gather a group of people. It could be by age, by sex, or by whatever means. Then we talk to them. It's just an open discussion. We try to look at how do we come up with measures to prevent the rise in sexual GBV. Then, of course, we have our colleagues that are community-based health volunteers. They are also helping us in sensitizing the community about the issues to do with sexual GBV. So in short, what we are saying is we are not just sitting idle twice after to alanda. Yes, it's true. Having abantu for radio, but the few that are not listening per radio, these are the people that we now target in my communities. Especially in areas like where I'm coming from, they are so prone to issues. They are sexual GBV. We engage gatekeepers. These are community leaders, so that we mobilize abantu. We talk to them. But sometimes because of maybe lack of enough resources. But I think with the help of Mwanza, we can still do more, so that whatever Shumfil Cooperate, they get sensitized. And then there's also that week inside, that 16 days of activism. You remember that week? So that we go flat out in sensitize abantu pali sexual GBV. But I believe in we still need to do more.
Mr. Sumo also talked about the bad reception by some of the officers. Can you just cover that before we move on?
Yeah, I think that is wrong. In our approach, we shouldn't be judgmental. Yeah, we should we should be fair in our approach. If it is violence against a man, don't say, but if that man reacted and inflicted injuries on that woman, the story will be different. But this is a man who is seeking peace, who is rushing there for help. You need to receive them and help. And you know that there are women that are able to overpower men. There are women that act under the influence maybe of alcohol, and you know that there is a lot of alcohol abuse amongst the women.
Yeah.
And when they are intoxicated or they are under the influence of alcohol, they can do anything, they can pick anything to inflict injuries on a man. So when this man goes to the police should not be judgmental in approach, but should be able to provide the service even to the man. That is quite wrong. And if there is such an officer, that officer should be reported. And I should say is not fit to save the community. And in terms of sensitization, we are doing quite a lot. And Mr. Perry talked about Cantolomba, and it is on record that we used to have so many young school-going children who used to drop out of school when they just reach grade 6, grade 7. They are pregnant. They are dropping out of school. But because of the sensitization which is going on now, and we have the community working with us, we have seen such cases going down, and we are seeing many of them continuing with education. And even in the rural areas, we have the champions, even the chiefs. They have even issued statements that twamfuwa pero mwana wabene fumu shilingire okukwate fumunangu kufuyanga twamfana mufya baka mitamfya mumushi. Those are the issues on the ground now because of the sensitization, raising awareness, and people now are able to respond and be able to protect vulnerable groups. Yes, but this is something that is ongoing, and we have to continue doing that. Yes, in churches also, we need to continue, but I know there are some churches that have group-focused discussions. When they have youth meetings, they talk about these things.
All right, so I think due to time, we will do this. I'll give you a minute each to respond to these particular two different questions. I'll start with Mr. Piri first.
All right.
Why is it that there is obviously you've tackled this? Why is it that there is underreporting of SGBV cases, and what causes the victims not to report? Then Mr. Mwanza will come and tackle the effects of SGBV on victims, and we shall call it therapy. So you've got a minute and a minute.
Okay. So I think what causes underreporting of these cases, one, it could be that, like on the case of us men, if often baranda basiwa kwatuleti no kwati baratu mwena mwa police baratu seka. Then two, I mentioned something about like a population that has women who are not empowered. But through this issue of sexual GBV, babachita offender lamba tabachita report. Barapo kafenda lamba shida balabeko. Then chimbi, if you feel the perpetrator is the breadwinner of the family. Baibo kwacha wanga baba kaka mishifo twashara twachula. Then the other thing is the issue from one Korea kwabati within our marriage setups, whatever happens munga and don't take it out. In short, I'm talking about traditional practices or traditional norms. Then the other thing, it could be that if you are under poem, basi uwa lastri, lack of information, pakubantu bambitaba ishboko officer report ama cases haya. Tabishi papa kuambira bushe robambi baishbo kwa tilimbi case te sexual GBV ni fimbife, but ni sexual GBV. Then the other thing, it could be that if in our communities, like basuwa na mtisapo mention something, if ya parako kwa wati ufintunga village kapaneba, it's none of our business. Instead of us helping umuntu to report such cases, if we just stay until such time what number babuntu balero linso munganda twale umfaliso mukashana lepunda, but all this time mwadikwisa. So some of these things we can still work out a mechanism of what to unbox report ama cases on time. Yeah.
All right. The effects of SGBV on the victims in 90 seconds.
Okay, the effects, there are quite many, but quickly I'll just mention some of them. Number one, the effects, that's why we are seeing a lot of alcohol abuse amongst couples. When you ask them, why do you abuse alcohol? Bakalanda tuepusha masho kubachira moku tuchusha maya mayanda. That's why you're seeing many people used to taking alcohol as a cushion to the pain that they are going through in their marriages. And other even men are trying to find that they would not want to go home sober because of the pressure that is coming from the wife, would want to go home drunk, so that even when the woman is trying to do something to him, he may not feel it because he's under the influence of alcohol. Yeah, so that's why we are seeing that people are abusing alcohol as a cushion to the pain that they are experiencing in marriages. The other thing is depression, and we have seen that the effects of GBV will result into divorces, where maybe the woman would say, enough is enough, I just have to leave this man, I'll find my own means of survival. And as this woman continues to try and adapt to life, will begin to go through depression. Yeah, and depression is another effect. Others is death. Because of GBV, we have had couples killing, spouses killing the other partner and so forth. So these mostly come from the issues of GBV, and you know that some of the cases that are before the courts of law, where one kills the partner, is because of this same GBV. Yeah, so there are quite a number of things. Then you find that there is also exacerbation of chronic diseases. We find that this person is hypertensive, but because of the trauma she's going through, you find that even when you are giving antihypertensive drugs to bring down the BP, the BP will not go down, it will keep on going up. Why? Because there is an exacerbation of that condition. Yeah, so these are some of the effects, and the other effects that I may talk about. Organ damage, where maybe bakatula n'erinso abalume nga bakashibatula abalume irinso, there are those effects. And then you find that the other effect, we have so many street kids, where now the parents separate and the children, no one is there to look after them. What do they do tomorrow? They will run into the streets to earn a living because there is no one to support them. And others will find that they don't continue their education because the one who used to support them is no longer there. Maybe they've separated. So these are some of the effects of gender-based violence. And what we are saying, it is not a good act. It should come to an end. And there is an organization which is dealing in gender-based violence. It is saying stop gender-based violence now because of the adverse effects.
Thank you so much, gentlemen, for coming through. Thank you. All right, so dear listeners out there, that was the discussion that we had for you today, this particular morning on the Insakayaumi radio program, which is brought to you by the Population Media Center in conjunction with the Ministry of Health. We were not just live on Rooster 91.3 FM, but we were also broadcasting live on Radio Chimwemwe 91.7, and the topic of discussion for this particular morning was sexual gender-based violence, or SGBV in short. And in the studios, I was joined by Mr. Cornelius Mwanza, who is the Principal Clinical Officer from Dola District Health Office, and Mr. Rogers Piri, who is a community activist. So, next week Wednesday, 10 to 11, I have been your host, Mukuka Jackson Nawa. Good morning.
Listen to your favorite radio show, Isaka Yagumi, for great information, 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 for great information.